This one is from Jesterbell. It says, I love Starfleet Academy. My favorite show. Now, this is from last week, I think. And it's her pretending to like Starfleet Academy, which I'm sure is going to be very exciting for everybody. Very exciting. Let's hear what she has to say. There's actually it's a 13-minute Jesterbell video. Wow, that's pretty short for Jesterbell.
Hello everyone, Jesterbell aka Female Frodo Baggins is here. And before we get started, it is actually my birthday this Saturday, and I was put up to it by Sister Bell to ask all of you to please subscribe to this channel and see if we can get 100,000 subscribers by...
No, don't. Don't subscribe to her channel. For your own health and well-being, do not subscribe to her channel. People say that I shouldn't do cancel culture, but I'm absolutely doing cancel culture right now. Do not subscribe to Jesterbell. And a little bit of gatekeeping at the same time.
By that time, I don't even know if that's possible, but if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel to see if we can get 100,000 subscribers. We are almost there. I would greatly appreciate it.
It's pretty funny to me that we live in a time where Jesterbell almost has 100,000 subscribers. That's pretty fucking funny. just general thoughts on it. Like, there's a lot of channels out there where I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. They make slop content, but it makes sense that they have a lot of subs. Jesterbell having almost 100,000 subscribers is... How many does she have, actually? Hold on, let's see. She has 90... Wow. I can't. I cannot.
Today, I want to talk to you guys about a show that I love. A show that has given me so much money. A show that I look for...
Did y'all catch that? Did y'all catch that? Fam? Let me run that back, just in case you didn't catch it. Look at the joke she inserted here. Just pay attention.
Is about a show that I love. A show that has given me so much money. A show...
So much money. That's really interesting because I get a lot of shit when I say these guys only do this stuff for money. You go into my comment section, anytime I make a video about Nerdrotic or Critical Drinker, or even Jesterbell, people in the comments go, how do you know that they don't believe in what they're saying and they only do it for the money? Because they admit it. They admit it so often. Here she was admitting it in this video. I have videos of Geeks and Gamers, like Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers admitting it's for the money. Quartering has admitted it's for the money. He talked about changing up content because it's more profitable. Not because he believes in the content, not because these guys believe in the content they're making. They make this content for the money. That's why they do it. So she let the mask slip. Also, I have a really interesting opinion about what happens in this video, like the way she goes through the motions on this, that we'll talk about as we get through the video.
That I look forward to waking up at 4 o'clock every Thursday now for the past 6 weeks, soon to be 7 weeks, to watch. I just love it. I'm talking, of course, about Starfleet Academy. I absolutely love this show. I watch it every week with my husband and his boyfriend. We all...
Oh, homophobia! Right away. Right away. I also want to point out, does her husband like the idea that she's making a joke about him having a boyfriend? Is that cool with him? Do people that know them, they think that's okay? That she jokes about her husband having a boyfriend? That's kind of fucking weird. That's kind of fucking weird. Let's continue.
3 of us love this show, and I just want to share with you guys why you should be watching it and why this show just means so much to me. First of all, what I love about Starfleet Academy is that it represents me. it represents me in a way that shows never.
It actually does, though. Like, low key, it is a show with a lot of women in it, so it does represent her. Like, I know she's going to be completely fucking disingenuous as we continue through this, but in reality, it does represent her. So, I mean, she's not lying there. That's actually true. For once, Jesterbell has actually told the truth in one of her videos that I've watched. For once, she said that. But let's continue.
Have in the past. Namely, the showrunners and the writers were so thoughtful. They said that with the Klingon Jaden, who is a gay character, which, you know...
By the way, still to this day, not confirmed gay. I know that people say, well, the actor said it off camera, or they've talked about it in articles or whatever. That is still not an in-canon confirmation that he is gay. It's still not. So I think when he says gay, or any of these actors are saying gay, they're saying the way it's viewed from our modern audience lens, that he is gay in the show. We don't know what a relationship like that is called or what it looks like in the future between two characters that are male presenting or that are men. We don't know what that looks like or what it's called.
Really warms my heart because it reminds me of my husband's boyfriend a whole lot.
More homophobia and more throwing her boyfriend under the bus for a joke.
They said that they gave him a polyamorous family with 2 dads and 1 mom because they were thinking about the kids out there. They were thinking about the kids out there who have a polyamorous family and who need to see that represented on screen, who need to see the way their parents are.
I love how they just sort of paraphrase stuff and create a narrative and weave a narrative together. That's always fun.
Presented on screen, and I just really appreciated that, and it really made me feel seen because I too have a polyamorous family. I have 10 dads and 7 moms, and
I think she's telling the truth there. I think that's her being honest. That would really explain a lot.
never seen myself represented in such a wonderful way on screen before, so that's really, really, really why I enjoy Starfleet Academy, and I think that it is a breakthrough for TV everywhere now that kids all over the world who have multiple live-in parents who live together and do things together, they all can feel seen after this show.
I do want to comment here. The term gay is specific to humans, right? Because we've heard arguments that the term cannibal can't be applied to aliens because they're aliens, and therefore cannibal as a term doesn't apply to them and other modern phrases. The term gay is very specific to the human race, to human beings. When I say that we don't know what it's called in other interspecies relationships, that's because there are no... Humanoid and humans are not the same thing. Humanoid and humans, for example, Klingons are humanoids, but they don't share the same culture as humans. Do we not understand the difference between a humanoid and humans? There are other creatures on this planet and represented in science fiction that are humanoid. Technically, Bigfoot is a humanoid. So you know what I'm saying? Like, these are all things that look and act like a human would, but they're not actually humans. They're humanoids. Matter of fact, humanoid means having an appearance or character resembling that of a human. Literally doesn't mean you're human. It means you're not. It means you have the appearance or you resemble that of a human. So still not a human. So things like gender and sexuality, all of these specific things are completely connected to human beings, to humans on Earth. So if we're going to complain about Star Trek taking terms that are completely tied to modern language and modern sensibilities, then gay does not apply to other creatures, other beings, other races, other species. It doesn't apply to that. What if you went to a planet? I'm just going to put this in perspective. What if you went to a planet where the males of the species being together is the norm? That's the way they reproduce. The men reproduce, and the women are, I don't know, caretakers of the kids. Would that make them gay? Or would that mean that their species, that's just the way they are? Right? I mean, how would you look at it in that perspective? It's not like not like us where there's like, heterosexual, homosexual. On that world, that's just the way their species reproduces. The two males reproduce and the women have nothing to do with it. Does that make them gay? No. So there's no terminology that we have that applies to the relationship of the characters in Starfleet Academy. So that's why we're not hearing that word. That's why it's not being said in canon, because it doesn't make sense for it to be in canon. So they're using that word so that we can relate to the relationship. So we understand what the relationship looks like, not because that's what it actually is. Hope that helps.
But that isn't the only reason why I just love Starfleet Academy, and I will forever defend this show against all of the haters who would dare speak ill of it. There's more reasons than that. Another one of the things that I love about Starfleet Academy is just how few people watch it. Now, we've gotten reports that it is not charting on Nielsen ratings.
Okay, so Nielsen ratings, let's debunk this right now. Nielsen ratings is an antiquated way to chart streaming media. The reason why is it does not accurately count the views or the watch time of the shows. It only counts people that watch it on their TV. If you watch it on your tablet, if you watch it on your laptop, if you watch it on your phone, if you watch it anywhere else other than your television, including YouTube, anywhere like that, they do not count the minutes. So it doesn't matter that it's not charting on Nielsen against other shows that actually do count in traditional ways, like regular viewing on TV.
And that it couldn't even crack 2,000 views on its premiere. It got like 1,300 views on.
According to people that watch it on their TVs only. But they're going to leave that little bit of information out because they have no other fucking argument. This is the only thing they can do.
Its premiere, it was nowhere near 1 million views. Maybe it got 200,000 even after the controversy. And
you know what I love about Jesterbell's camera is she can't even figure out how to make it work correctly. Look at it trying to focus. Like, let's run this back. If you look at this, it's trying to focus because she doesn't have it in the settings. She doesn't have it turned on to a locked focal point. She's got it on autofocus, and therefore it just keeps zooming it. Like, watch this. It's crazy.
1,000 views on its premiere. It got like 1,300 views on its premiere. It was nowhere near 1 million views. Maybe it got.
She's so fucking stupid. She can't even fix the camera.
200,000 even after the controversy and other hateful YouTubers bashing it. But this is why I love that it proves that Starfleet Academy chased away all of the chuds out there and the haters. It chased away all the people that love Star Trek because it truly despises the fans of old Trek. And that's exactly how I feel.
So this is another talking point about despising the fans of old Trek. What old Trek are we talking about? Because we literally have 3 other blocks of Trek viewership generations to look at. So which one of the old Trek people are we talking about? Are we talking about the original series fans who are most likely well beyond the viewing age of Starfleet Academy? Are we talking about those guys? Or are we talking about the ones from the 80s that watched the original series movies and the ones that came in with the next generation? Are we talking about those people? Or the people that watched Voyager and Deep Space Nine? Or are we talking about more of the Enterprise, J.J. Abrams block of people that knew Star Trek? Are we talking about those? What block of fans are being treated disrespectfully by the people making Starfleet Academy? The answer is none of them, because the show isn't being made for that group of fans. This show is actually made for people between the ages of 18 and 35. That's the age group they're catering to. And that's okay, because just like I've said in other videos, you can love a restaurant, but you don't have to order everything on the menu. And when you have something like Star Trek or Star Wars or Marvel or DC, they have a huge menu that you don't always have to order from. Do people that love DC buy every single title of DC? Do they buy every title that comes out? Or do they have specific titles that they do watch? If DC releases a comic book that they're not reading, are they offended because of that? Oh my God, there's a superhero over here in this comic book that is being made that I don't want to read, so therefore that's highly offensive, and people should definitely boycott DC forever because they made a comic book about a character that I'm just not going to read. So that's what's happening here with Starfleet Academy. Starfleet Academy is a show, it's a separate show in the Star Trek universe that doesn't require you to watch it. There's no requirements for you to watch Starfleet Academy. You don't have to. So that's why this comes off as crybaby shit. It comes off like whiny babies in an echo chamber who are just so entitled that they believe every single project that is made for Star Trek has to cater to them 100%. And that makes no sense whatsoever. That makes no sense. If you go into, again, I'm going to use the restaurant analogy here. If you go into a restaurant and 95% of the restaurant are sandwiches that you love, but the other 5% are things that you would not order, that doesn't mean that the other 5% they don't get to exist on the menu and that other people don't get to enjoy them. It just means that it's not your favorite. But I don't know anybody who would go, well, let's shut the restaurant down because 5% of the sandwiches I don't like, so fuck the rest of it. And that's the argument. That is the argument that these guys are making. Even though they love so much of Star Trek, a very tiny blip of Star Trek is stuff they don't like, and so they're crashing out about it.
So the fact that so few people are watching this show just gives me such joy, because it shows that I am a part of the exclusive group that I knew I always was a part of. The intellectual group that understands just how great shows like this can be.
No, so I don't think anybody, at least, okay, I'm not going to speak for everybody, I'll speak for myself. I would never try to convince someone that they should like something. If they ask me, hey, change my mind, give me a reason to watch it, what do you think about it? If they were to ask me those questions, I would give them honest answers, and I would try and get them to check it out, because that's what they asked me to do. They wanted to know my opinion about it. If someone doesn't like something, I'm totally okay with them not liking it, and I'm totally okay with them not watching it. My issue has never been that. My position on this has never been, you have to love something or else. I've never done that. My position has always been, if you don't like something, you don't have to watch it. You can certainly tell people you don't like it, but then when you start making propaganda content to smear it and attack it, that's a completely different subsect of not liking something. That's a completely different section of that. It's a completely different category of that. So the fact that you don't even understand that is fucking crazy.
And how progressive they are, and how they're forging a future for us. And now I know that Star Trek is forever taken away from those chuds, and they will never be able to enjoy it again. And so that gives me such warm feelings that it will always be my thing forever, and that it will never again be...
Fix your fucking camera. Holy shit. Holy shit. The main man Lobo, she comes off as very rural and uneducated. Columbia Rican, and she's basically admitting she's a fucking Karen. Tony here says Jesterbell is just putting her dusty opinion on everyone. That's all true. All true.
Enjoyed by those awful Star Trek fans of old. It will always be a thing for me now, but there's so much more about...
You know what's really funny is I am a Star Trek fan of old. I started watching Star Trek back in the 80s. So Like when I was younger, I was watching the movies and The Next Generation. I was watching all of that as a kid. So technically, she's saying that I am part of the group that's supposed to be offended and disrespected by Starfleet Academy. But it doesn't make sense because I know other people, anecdotally, I know other people in my age group that also like the show. So it's such a weird argument to make. So she's getting offended on behalf of me? You don't have to. I like Starfleet Academy. So you don't have to be offended on my behalf.
About this show that I enjoy. One of my favorite aspects of this show is the romance, particularly between Jaden, this character, and this character. I just love...
Yeah, it shows you how much they actually care about the stuff when they don't even know the names of the character. Such concern trolling.
Of the development where they stare at each other and smile at each other and exchange glances. It's just such a wonderful development.
So it's really interesting to me that they can just express like bigoted viewpoints when it comes to two guys on camera. But if it were a guy and a girl, they would have no problem with it. And this is why it veers into like a homophobia, queerphobia type. That's how that veers off into that direction. Because if these were characters who presented as one is a man, one is a woman, they would have zero problems with it. Because she's not complaining about any of the other relationship stuff when it comes to people on the show that present as man and woman. She's not complaining about any of that. Because we're talking about alien species. So obviously we have to like sort of narrow it down to how it's perceived. Like I talked about earlier, that the perception is that they are gay, even though we don't know what that looks like in this context. That's the perception. So what she's doing here is she's like honing in, like locking in on the two guys on camera and saying there's something wrong with this. By the way, anybody that's coming in halfway through this, she's being facetious. This is all her sort of like playing a game. So by her doing that, she's locking in on the homophobia of it and being facetious about it. And she's not going to complain about any of the other relationships unless they're queer-coded relationships.
Chemistry where so much is said between the two and just so much is expressed. I'm so invested and I always look forward to every episode getting to see that little cameo of this wonderful relationship between Jaden and this fellow. It's one of my most favorite ships of all time. I just have such an investment.
You know, in order to sell this, you probably should have looked up the name of the characters, but okay.
You know, Jaden is this sensitive Klingon who likes to birdwatch, and his love interest is, I don't know anything about him, but it really, that is a really great thing that they added to the show, and I love that they did.
So you're actually telling on yourself here. You know how she's telling on herself, besides just being blatantly bigoted, is you're already establishing that this character who Jaden is interested in doesn't have a big role in the show. But even a supporting side character who doesn't have a big role causes you to crash out. And let's follow me here. So Jaden, supporting character in somewhat of a relationship, supporting character who she says isn't even important enough to know the name, because clearly she's trying to play it up as a joke, is enough for her to crash out. It leads back to you're crashing out because it's two guys. So you're literally just telling on yourself by doing this.
That because we don't need to know more about these characters. It keeps us asking questions. It keeps us waiting for the next episode.
So you're saying they need more representation. I agree with you. We need more representation of characters like this with larger roles in shows. See, we can see eye to eye on stuff. If you're going to jokingly say that the character doesn't get enough screen time and therefore it's a relationship not worth even talking about because, again, she's being facetious. If that's your argument, then I agree with you. I make all of them gay. Make all of them bi. Make all of them pan. Bring more drag queens on the show. I agree. I think we need way more representation. So I appreciate you acknowledging that here.
Some other things I love about Starfleet Academy is I love that it's not too heavy on the science fiction element because I don't understand any of that stuff. Instead, they made it accessible to people like me on a level that we can understand.
I love that she's she doesn't even know that she's actually really talking about herself here because she's pretending that she's talking about the other side, but she's actually just talking about herself, which I think is hilarious.
The character of Sam. I just love her and I identify with her so much in terms of her just feeling so insecure. I love that little thought bubbles will pop up explaining what she is thinking so that the audience will understand. I love the hip hop track that plays throughout the episodes and
What? The racist stuff they just shove in here is so crazy. This is the same stupid arguments that Ryan Kennel has made, that fucking Nerdrotic has made, that Critical Drinker has made, is when a hip-hop track plays and there happens to be a person of color on screen, they seem to have an issue with that. What fucking difference does that make? Let's run this back. I want you guys to be aware that she's specifically mentioning hip-hop track because Sam is portrayed by a black woman. So let's...
little thought bubbles will pop up explaining what she is thinking so that the audience will understand. I love the hip hop track that plays throughout the episodes and it really expresses, you know, that this is a cool show and that it's in with the kids now.
No. You caught yourself there. You caught yourself. That was a catch, fam. She caught herself. That it's a cool show and it's in with the kids. No. You said that because she's a black woman. And you realize that you didn't have a punchline that worked without making it sound even more racist than you already sound. Okay, let's continue.
That really speaks to me. So I love how warm and fuzzy the show is and how it feels like anyone could watch this show. It feels like little kids could watch this show.
So what's wrong with that? Because again, she's arguing like she's on the other side of this. What's wrong with the show being warm and fuzzy and that everybody can watch it? What's the problem with that? Star Trek has never been like hardcore rated R. Like that's never been what the show is. It's always been a show that kind of like the whole family can watch. Like that's what they've always tried to do with the show. So what's wrong with that? Are you arguing that you want a rated R Star Trek?
I didn't like all of the scary elements of the original Star Trek. I didn't like how tough and toxic all the characters were. They were really scary. So I'm really...
What the actual fuck? Tough and toxic? Who's made that argument? They constantly bring people back. They constantly bring people back in from older Star Trek stuff as nostalgia. We had an entire series called Picard. So I'm not sure what the fuck she's even talking about. Has anybody in the modern era of Star Trek tried to necessarily talk shit about how toxic old Star Trek is? Is that a real talking point? I haven't heard that. That seems like a straw man. I've never heard that argument before.
really glad that they softened it up for this show for a person like me. And I think that this is the better way to do it. I think that it's just so much better when the characters are soft and they feel friendly and you feel like you could be friends with them rather than those weird military commanders from the original.
Star Trek was never a military show. Star Trek has never been a strictly military show. Matter of fact, they spend a vast majority of their time trying to distinguish what Starfleet is from the actual military. Anybody who thinks, and I mean this, and this is going to be me gatekeeping, This is putting on my gatekeeping hat here. If you think that OG Star Trek, like the older ones, go back to the original series or even Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and think that that show represents a strict military style formula, if you think that's what they're trying to do with Star Trek, then you do not understand Star Trek. You just don't understand it. Like, that's not what Starfleet is. Let's run this back.
I think that it's just so much better when the characters are soft and they feel friendly and you feel like you could be friends with them, rather than those weird military commanders from the original show. Those characters shouldn't exist anymore. On a more note like that,
they shouldn't exist anymore. They just did an episode celebrating Cisco. They just had an episode celebrating Deep Space Nine. Literally, the Doctor from Voyager is a character on this show.
Feel like they made the Klingons more accessible because they weren't accessible before. Before, the Klingons were so toxically masculine, and I really didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. It was just perpetuating toxic masculinity.
What Star Trek fan who's loved Star Trek over the years has talked negatively about the Klingons being toxically masculine? And I'm not saying in a joke. I mean legitimate conversations. I can't think of one. And I've been going to Star Trek conventions pretty much my entire adult life. Matter of fact, a lot of people come as Klingons. A lot of people dress up as Klingons. The Klingon language is on fucking Duolingo. You can learn the actual language because they are some of the most popular antagonists in the history of science fiction. I don't think I've seen any legitimate Star Trek fan, regardless of where you fall politically and culturally, argue in good faith that the Klingons are too toxically masculine. Again, this is a straw man argument she's making up.
So I really appreciate it now that they showed a different side to the Klingons, and they showed that there are different ways. Like, anyone can be a warrior, whether you're a bird watcher or you're sensitive.
But he's not a warrior. That's the point. It's not saying that anybody can be a warrior. He's literally not a warrior. That is his character story.
Or you have two dads and one mom, and you've got a crush, like anything like that. Anything can be a warrior. However,
I love that we're over halfway through this video, and she's just been fixated on Jaden and queer relationships. That's all she's been talking about.
However you want to define it, it's fluid. It's fluid. However you want to define being a warrior. So I really appreciate that they removed the toxic masculinity from these Starfleet Academy characters, from the Klingons especially, and I just feel like that is healthier, and I feel that it is more accessible to a modern audience today. And I think that we're going forward in a better direction now with all of that. But there are more things, still more things that...
This is one of the weirdest crash outs I've ever seen. This is one of the weirdest crash outs. Hey, what's up, Bob? Wait, is she arguing that you have to be toxic to be a warrior? Yeah, I guess that's what she's saying here. Has she ever watched Star Trek before? The answer is no. No, she has not.
I love when it comes to Starfleet Academy. I love Holly Hunter's character, and I love that we see her feet constantly. Because I love to see feet. I love that she constantly has her feet off, so I can make endless screen caps of Holly Hunter's feet to keep on my...
Is this Feetgate again? I've seen so many of these guys argue about seeing her feet. You would think that her boobs are out the way, it's oh God, you can see her feet. That's so crazy. It's so crazy in 2026. The world must be on its head because a woman's feet are on camera. The sheer fact that her feet are out on camera and is causing this level of crash out means that they made a good decision. We love to see that.
A computer. I love that they had a little fart joke in there at one point because I just think that that's so funny and that's something for the kids. But I also love in this Starfleet Academy show, I love the amount of drinking that there is in this show. That
Oh, you mean the one episode? The one episode. And they've never they don't drink on any other Star Trek. Not even the Next Generation, where classically they have a bar that they go to. There's holodeck episodes about drinking alcohol. They've never drank on any other Star Trek show ever. But this one has one episode of them drinking and crash out.
Feels like it's for kids. I love the amount of drinking in this show and going to the bar and just getting wasted and making out, because it reminds me very much about how I live my everyday life.
Well, it's a show about people that are supposed to be college-age kids, young adults. That's the show. So that's why so many of the episodes represent that particular period in people's lives. But that would require you to actually have a social life outside of your incel-ish, I should say, life. You live in your bedroom. And so I can't imagine that you know what it's like to go out and actually have friends and do things with friends. So I guess that would be very foreign to you, and you wouldn't understand why that's represented in a show full of a bunch of young folks hanging out.
I really enjoy that, and I enjoy that they still don't stint on the hookups and shipping in this show, because I think that that's something that everyone can see. I think that it is the perfect mixture for a show, a juvenile tone, and then drinking and hookups. I think that is just wonderful, and I think that...
Well, then you would love the 80s. For somebody that nostalgia baits, you simply don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Think about movies like Pretty in Pink, The Breakfast Club, any of the 90s movies that had a young adult audience. What about American Pie? There's a lot of things that represent that age demographic that do not mean coded for children. Because it's that weird part of your life where you're not really a kid and you're just becoming an adult. And that's why it's a coming of age TV show. That's why it focuses in on that young adult demographic. That's the target audience for the show. 18 to 35 is the target audience for this show. That's the market. So what they're doing is they're showing what it would look like in this world, a Starfleet Academy with a bunch of people who are very young coming into this, how they would have to adjust to this life. That is the point of the show. And none of these guys get that. None of them understand this at all.
It shows what in such a good place that TV is going in the future. Now, other things I love about this show is I love the lessons that it teaches us. I love that it teaches us empathy, because empathy is very important. And it's something that those...
It is. Do you not think empathy is important? Because that's the joke here, is you're supposed to be arguing on the other side. So your empathy is not a good thing? That's a red flag.
Evil Star Trek fans of old don't understand. I hate those old Star Trek fans. I think I want to do things intentionally.
So this is the straw man she keeps going with. No, I don't think anybody on the show hates old Star Trek fans. Matter of fact, the actor, I think his name is Kareem, who plays Jaden, actually reached out to other cast members from previous iterations of Star Trek that played Klingons to get their advice, to tell them how much it meant to him to play a Klingon. Most of the people on the show, if you watch the red carpet interviews, love being a part of this show that they loved watching growing up, or things that their parents loved. They enjoy being a part of it. I've not seen one person associated with Starfleet Academy talk shit about the older Star Treks. I've not seen them be disrespectful to any of the older actors. I've not seen them be disrespectful to any of the older franchises. So I don't know what this argument is that it's some sort of hate content towards old Star Trek. It is a straw man argument, but also I don't even know where it came from.
To hurt them. I'm glad they feel bad about this show. They didn't understand what it's like to have empathy. So yes, I'm really glad that this show teaches empathy and what it's like to, just feel others' pain and be nice to them. I think...
Are you unwell? Are you having a... What's going on? Does somebody need to, like, have someone check in on you? Like, this is legitimate concerning. Like, I'm being honest. This is weird.
That is a very important lesson that this show taught. But there's other lessons as well. It teaches us about how we should treat refugees. That was what episode 2 was all about. You know,
this is all a self-report. Everything that she says the show is doing badly because she's looking at this from the other side is her stating her opinion. So no empathy. She believes that, I guess, everyone who likes Starfleet Academy thinks that Klingons are toxically masculine. She believes that we all hate old Star Trek. And now she has some negative thoughts on refugee status. Like, all of these things are big red flags for her.
All about a conflict of a race that was broken up from Starfleet and how they would come back into the fray. And that was also a theme of episode 4 as well. I just really love it whenever they talk about refugees. That is very important to me. But, like, the refugees, of course, very important to talk about that.
So are you pro-Klingon or anti-Klingon? I can't understand. Like, you're talking about how they don't care about the toxically masculine Klingons, but you're also making a joke about being concerned about their refugee status? I don't know.
And it's something that's very special to talk about for me. The refugees, I hope you understand. Other things that I think are very important that you learn from this show, you learn about speaking up, you learn about speaking your truth, and you learn about that you are fine just the way you are. Even if you are an insufferable 17-year-old hologram who goes around and gets drunk and causes a nuisance, you are just fine just the way you are, and there is nothing to worry about. But there is heartbreak on Starfleet.
This is actually kind of sad. Like, I'm actually feeling sad. Like, is this her mental state day to day? Is she miserable? Are you miserable with your life? I'm going to armchair diagnose you for a moment because I do feel like I'm starting to get some vibes here. This is an interesting video from her because, again, she's pretending to be someone on the opposite side. And so she's arguing in bad faith, pretending to give a shit about all of these things that she doesn't truly understand. But I feel like she's miserable, like she's not happy. Maybe she doesn't even know she's not happy. It's really sad.
Academy too, and I really am glad that they just had the guts to go through with that. And with the last episode, with a Vulcan character getting killed, and everyone was sad. I think his name was Bobby. It was just really sad and really heartfelt.
So now we don't care about people getting killed in media unless we know their names. Or we know them very well. It's a self-report. This is all a self-report.
Really well done. And I just really got me right here. I wish we could have found out anything about that character before he got killed off. So maybe it would matter that he died. But no, it was...
Yeah, meaningless death, right? Yeah, if somebody dies and you don't know them, that's not an awful thing. It's like we should have known more about them before they died to give a shit. Makes sense.
It's the best writing they could have possibly done. Now, I know full well that people aren't watching this show, and I don't care about them at all. I think that Star Trek fans... I think that they're awful, toxic people, and I think that they deserve to have the thing that they love taken away from them. I love that this show is telling us what we should be thinking about, which is about empathy for...
You know, I'm totally okay with people like you never watching Star Trek again. I mean, this is me being as genuine as I possibly can. You are so insufferable and are so media illiterate and so bad faith. I don't care if you ever get another piece of Star Trek media that you like. First and foremost, you're never going to like any of them because you make more money shitting on them. So expecting you to like any of it is probably never going to happen. But also, The way you view this media and the way you view the world, I don't care if you ever get another version of Star Trek that you give a shit about. I don't care. I genuinely don't care.
Or your fellow human beings and things like that. Things that those awful Star Trek fans would not understand. And it doesn't matter if it's not being watched. Once again, it doesn't matter whatsoever. What matters is that we have stolen ground here. We have taken the ground of Star Trek that was once popular. We have made more seasons of it and more episodes and more.
In order to steal something, it has to be not yours. And what you're doing is you are doing performative ownership over Star Trek. You're pretending that because you are a massive fan, which I don't think you are, but you're pretending that you're a massive fan in order to exude some form of entitlement over this media, which is not yours. You don't own it. I don't own it. None of us own it. It is actually the intellectual property of a large studio, and they get to decide what gets done with it. And that's the truth. So whether you or I like it is completely irrelevant in terms of ownership, because we don't own the property.
TV movies than ever, and so no matter what happens, Star Trek will always be taken away from those awful old fans. And we know what the Klingons should be, and we know what the Vulcans should be, and we know what the future should look like. In the future, our military will be filled with sensitive men.
The Starfleet is not the military. You keep saying that. It's not true. Starfleet is not the quote-unquote military of the future. Is there a military division within Starfleet? Yes. Is there a lot of different types of divisions in Starfleet? Yes. But Starfleet, at its core, at its inception, is not a military organization throughout the galaxy. I don't know why you keep saying that. And anybody that does actually love Star Trek would know that.
With mommy issues and overweight women. That is the future that I want to see, and I'm glad that it's what Starfleet Academy acknowledged should be the future for all. So that is why I enjoy getting up at 4 o'clock every morning to enjoy the wonders of Starfleet Academy with my husband and his boyfriend, and that I can't wait for the remaining 4 weeks of this show. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video.
Okay. All right, there you go. A disingenuous Jesterbell.